Hi, Grit.
Hi, Antonia.
Hi.
Luckily it works. I was worried for a moment. It was strange. It says waiting to be accepted, and it kept on saying this, but that's fine. It's working.
It's fine. Let's see.
Yeah.
I will start the other one, the GoToMeeting, also just as a backup in a moment, not now. But it seems that last time it works. It worked very well. So
Yeah, I think probably will not be necessary. It worked really fine, for everyone was
yeah,
able to get in. So
let's see. I'm still looking for other options, but it doesn't seem to have a. We don't seem to have a really nice a standing app for this, because some say that GoToMeeting is okay, but then you see others that say that this one is the best one in terms of software, but then the other ones, well, you see, there's a lot of opinions, but this one is really the cheapest one.
yeah, but I think as it was on Tuesday, I think it's fine. We can stick with it. So
Let's see. Well, I was starting to maybe to have all the documents ready, because I wasn't able to include that in the dossier like I did for the first meeting. Then I think I have to go and jump around from
Okay.
from these last documents that were able. But from what I see, we're going to start. Do you want to start with the revision of the terms of reference, or with the
I was wondering, I was wondering if we, because for the revision of the terms of reference, is it correct that the main document that we do have is the one from Ralph?
the main document?
Which document do we have for the terms of reference?
Well, we have only two terms of reference that I received, one from Ralph and the one from Trina from the membership committee.
Okay.
Let me see if I can.
Because I just looked in the one from Ralph. Yeah. Were they very different?
What I think is that the terms of reference from. Oh, maybe I'm getting this wrong. Sorry, I was thinking about the report. The report from the communications committee was a little smaller than the other one. But now I'm trying to find out the TOR for.
I just have the tour which Ralph did, and I did make a document. I did this morning send you a document.
Yeah, but that one I have.
Okay.
I have that one.
And that's based on the one of Ralph, but because I didn't see another one, but that's probably one we can use because it seems applicable for the other committees too.
Yeah. Okay.
But I suggest them to do the strategic planning first, and take the terms of reference at the end.
Okay. I think I did include some information here. I'm gonna share my screen so that you can see. We have this your document, so that I will show.
Yes.
And then we have these ideas from Joe. That's the size of the scientific meetings.
Yeah,
and
well,
the starting.
I included I adjusted the documents. It's included already. It's in the document.
It was in the document. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I adjusted the document before I did put it on Basecamp, so it's in there.
I was looking because Pedro was telling that he will be a little bit late. Let me just tell him that.
Okay.
He's asking for some information. So I'm replying in Portuguese, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. See, we got information coming from all over. Now I see that Trina joined already. I'll open this here. So, but I was telling them after this size is in the document, then the scientific meetings and the society, we have this prioritization and the next step of society. You included that also?
Yeah. I included.
Oh, okay. So.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't look at that document. Let me see. This strategic planning. So I will start with this one. Trina, are you able to follow
Hello.
us? Hi. Okay.
Hi, Trina.
Can you hear me okay? Hi.
Yeah.
Happy evening.
Yeah,
Hey.
thanks. Is a lot of heat down there, isn't there?
It's been very hot this week, yes.
Yeah.
Melbourne's a bit all over the place. Sorry, Antonio?
Yeah, it seems that it helps with the internet connections with Fuse.
Well, let's hope that's not it, so that we can still talk in winter.
In winter, yeah. And maybe it's the cold in Europe also, because it's too cold here. So maybe it's all these interactions going by.
Maybe. Or maybe it's the update in Fuse, because it seems to have been better since I did that one. So
yeah. So I was just going through before everybody joins in, going through this the agenda points with grid, but you're okay. You're okay to follow this. There's some information. I don't know if are you looking at my screen also right now? No.
Before, but not now. You're not.
Okay, so I know what's happening, because if I want to see people joining in, I cannot share my screen.
Okay.
But there's just two questions that may pop up with this strategic planning. I don't know if we're gonna have the time. It's regarding the SIGs, because they start asking if they could have logos for each SIG, and I think it's a good idea, but then we should have the logos maintain a certain consistency. That's in order not for us to lose the society logo. So maybe that will come up.
Okay.
And after that, then we'll start the fellows. I think it will be quite easy.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about this before Pedro joins in, because as he says that it was getting late. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do
That's
you think?
an idea. It's because also for the nominations.
Yeah. Maybe we can ask Joe also. Joe, I think it's also chime in. No, Joe.
No,
no, it is. It is.
Well, good evening.
Joe. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi. Fine, thanks. We were just telling that Pedro just texted me and told me that it will be a little bit late. So maybe we can talk about the fellows first, because we are nominating him. I don't know if it's going to be awkward for him.
True.
And then go ahead for the strategic planning.
Yep, that's fine.
So from what I know, Grit, I think everybody is already in, because Diane said that she couldn't come. Russ also, and Benedict is already in.
Okay.
And Nana wasn't able also. So
okay, then we can get started. Hi, wow, that's a record time. We've never been able to be connected so quickly. Wow, that's really good. So as some of you might have heard already, the idea is to do the strategic planning. But just before that, we quickly want to touch on one small point, because Pedro will join in a little bit later. And one of the points we have to start thinking about is who we will nominate for the fellows. And this is something Joe will lead, but we already had a little bit of conversation, and we already came up with 3 names. That was Frank, who's stepping down as editor-in-chief, then Diana, who did a lot for the society and organized actually 2 conferences, and then also Pedro, who did a lot for the society. So this is maybe something we can reflect on before we move on to the strategic planning. But maybe Joe, you can say something about it.
Thanks, Great. Well, as you just said, we had 3 nominations so far, and I think according to the bylaws, we can run this past the nominations committee. But of course, given that Pedro's on there, I suppose, well, there's not much we can do about that. But we had Deanna, Frank, and Pedro were the 3 names that were put forward. So I guess we need to run that past the nominations committee first, but provided they're all in support, then I guess it's good for the MC to know that.
So just for you to know, Pedro just joined in. So, but it's okay.
Okay.
So this was just a notice, and we will continue with that. So Joe, you will take that on, because so that we can for the Edinburgh meeting have this in place. So everybody knows, and we can also communicate about this on Basecamp or Zoom.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So then we'll start with the strategic planning. So I did circulate a small document, and I realize it's very limited, but we only have 30, maybe 40 minutes, because we have a little bit extra time because Nana did not join. And the idea is, of course, that we cannot go into every detail and really work on strategy, but there are some points that it might be good to reflect on a little bit in order to further work on the strategy. And in the document, I just looked back into the goals that we set out for year 14-15, and in the little frame on the top of the page, you can see that we did formulate some goals. Well, the strategic plan for more years, and this is something we still need to look in, also the future business model. Also the draft of the ISBN-PA sponsorship policy document, and this is something we've been working on, and mainly Nana has been working on it, and it was supposed to be ready by now, but Nana has been very busy, but she promised us that in the next couple of months she'll have more time and she will be able to finalize this. So I think we will definitely have this in place by the end of this term. Also refine the terms of reference, and this is on the agenda today also. We will get back to that. Stimulate a few solid 6. I think that's definitely been done. And also increase the efficiency of the operations of the executive committee. And I'm pretty sure we've really improved several things also with Antonio being in place. Also, this is also something which we will evaluate in more detail at the Edinburgh meeting, but there are a couple of points regarding the operation that we can already discuss now. I also just added some additional objectives which were like part of the mission I had, and which we have been working on also with the membership committee with Trina. So this is just some additional information. But my suggestion would be to just go over some key questions which can help Joe and me and Antonio to look into the strategy for the coming years. So I will just go ahead and start with the questions, and then we can see how this goes. So the first couple of questions is related to the role of ISBN-PA. We've talked about this a couple of times. But I think it's really important that we really look into what really we want to accomplish with the society, And one of the tasks that we have been talking about, and there have been some different meanings about this, is the advocacy. So I would really suggest and appreciate if we could get some more detailed information, what everybody thinks about advocacy, in which degree ISBNPA should take on this role.
Great, I'm happy to start the conversation there. I think that it is, I saw Diane's comment on Basecamp overnight, and I actually agree with her. I think it's, for a smallish EC and society without a lot of infrastructure, it's difficult for us to play a key role in advocacy as one of our core activities. But I think something that Pedro did, organised in the meeting in San Diego last year with some other members of other societies, we have potential there to play a role in advocacy as a joined up member of a larger group. And to me, that seems to be, particularly initially, a good way for us to go, so we can advocate alongside other like-minded societies, but maybe not play a lead role in advocacy at this stage given our funding and infrastructure. But that's just my thoughts.
Hi, thanks, Joe. This is Pedro. So as I've said, I think I can't remember, I think yesterday or last call, we will have a workshop. So based on that meeting that we had last year, one of the action plans or one of the things we thought we would do, led by Don Wilson from past SPM president, and Susan Mickey, both of them were very active in our meeting, as you remember, last year, and myself. So we thought we would submit a symposia or a workshop actually on this very issue. So that would be it's something. I think in the past we have agreed that we would try to, every meeting at least, we would try to have some discussions around this topic and some ways in which the society could provide, if nothing else, a discussion point or a discussion moment around these topics. And I think this workshop is a great opportunity. What I would suggest is that, based on, sort of as a follow-up of last year's meeting, since the workshop will happen before the meeting, I think between Susan and Dawn and myself, we can see if there's interest in having another meeting, perhaps reflecting on whatever comes from the workshop, and see where that takes us. I mean, this is not a lot, but I think having a workshop is important, and it's an interesting landmark. And who knows who's going to be in the audience and who's going to be interested in suggesting new ideas. And if between that and possibly another meeting of some leaders that are in Edinburgh, maybe that's sufficient, or maybe that's a good contribution that we can give to this particular aspect of our mission, which we have agreed is not a central one, but we also have agreed that we don't want to drop it out. So maybe this is a good compromise.
And Pedro, I also had a discussion with Fiona Ball from ISPA about ways that we can affiliate.
Yeah, great. We've also been in touch, so I think she might be a good partner for this particular initiative. Yeah.
Any other reflections?
I agree that obviously it's not central, and the workshop and affiliating ourselves with other bodies where we might have opportunities is good. And I think the other way that we might be able to play a role in advocacy is through invitations like the one that came to us recently, where we were asked to send a member of the EC along. I'm not sure if anybody actually got there, because I know it was seemed to be a little difficult for people, but that might be the other way, that without making it something central, we can still make a contribution.
I think everybody's more or less in the same line. Also, Diane did react on Basecamp. It was quite similar that, given the small society and given the fact that we really mainly rely on volunteers, it cannot be a central task. It's very difficult, but it might be good to do some things which are well, quite easy to do. But indeed, like this invitation, seemed very interesting. But again, it was also quite short notice. But nobody was able to go, and that's just the way it is by the fact that we are just volunteers, and it makes it quite difficult to really play a central role. So that's it. I think it's important we don't give well, we don't make commitments we cannot accomplish. So
I agree. I was just going to say, this is Jennifer. Just speaking from the financial side of things, I would hate to see advocacy stretch us thin with regard to our financial resources as well as our time. So I would want to be mindful of that piece.
Okay, point well taken. Okay, maybe we go to the
Yeah,
next.
I also agree with
Sorry.
everything has been said. You're just saying that I'm also agreeing with all of the sentiments said before.
Okay, perfect. Regarding the members, something we've been discussing before, but I think it's really important, so that's why I wanted to bring it up again quite quickly, is anybody thinking of additional services we can provide to our members? I think with the new website, with the SIGs, with the more well, the mentoring and so on, I think we did a really good job with increasing our services. But are there other services that people think of that can be used to provide additional possibilities to our members?
Great. We did flag the student network that Sandra drive, so that's coming along as well.
I don't know if this would make sense for us. This is something that's come up in my department and with my group here, but from the research side, we're looking at volunteering to help each other review grant proposals or specific aims of proposals to make sure that they're sound and make sense before they go out. And I don't know if that's something that we might want to consider. It would potentially be voluntary if a member has specific aims or a research question that they'd like some input, maybe an outside set of eyes. If they knew that they could come to ISBNPA, similar with the mentoring program, if there were sort of a grant review service. I don't know. I'm throwing that out there as an idea.
That sounds very valuable to me. Any ideas on this? Any reflections? Of course, we would have to see how we can make it operational, but the idea seems very valid to me.
I don't know if it's something that's directly related to it, but I would like to see more international research projects, which I think are really hard to get off the ground because funding bodies kind of tend to sit in a certain region. I mean, Europe, it's a bit different, but I don't know if there's any way ISBNPA could facilitate such collaborations happening. And it's a bit similar to what Jennifer was saying, but not the same.
And we actually had some experience. Bob Jeffrey and I submitted a proposal that it more leveraged our connections as being part of ISBNPA. So it was with Hans, and Nana was part of it, and then David Crawford, trying to do an international survey of behaviors related to obesity, and then looking at policy in the 4 countries, the US, the Netherlands, Norway, and Australia. It got some favorable reviews. It did not ultimately get funded yet, but we're looking at revisiting it. But the organization was very useful as a point of, why is this team put together? Well, we've been collaborators through ISBNPA, and some of us have published together and served on the board together. And so it became a good point for demonstrating the connectivity of the team.
I think really the networking is very important, and is really a strength to get funding and to have projects together. But indeed, the idea is how we can even make this more, facilitate this through maybe some advantages for members. So I suggest maybe the membership committee or maybe the communications committee can look into this, if there is a possibility to facilitate this. Is this feasible, to just think what we could do to facilitate?
I'm happy to circulate it to the other members of the membership committee and see if people have some ideas how we can take it forward. And we have some new blood, so hopefully they're enthusiastic.
Maybe if I can just add some ideas. The same way that we're gonna have the SIGs and the mentoring interactive functions on the website, we could have something quite similar for this sort of networking. So high degree mentoring or something like this, and so something like that, so that people can tell us that they were interested in developing such type of research, and then the others just join in, and then after that they will go and communicate by themselves. But there will be a sort of a way to let people know.
Okay, so these are some ideas they're good to think through. So I think it's really good to just see what we can indeed accomplish and do. So these are indeed some good suggestions.
Great. I would perhaps frame that around the topic of funding broadly. This is something I've seen in other societies, in other meetings, that they have specific sessions or discussions or meetings around funding opportunities. And I know that we are international, so the funding agencies are obviously variable, and there are several. But I'm just thinking how interesting it would be that we, at some point, maybe not for Edinburgh, but at some point, that we put together people that are very well connected with funding, say in NIH, in the EU, in Australia, and perhaps somewhere else, to talk about common issues. For instance, one of the new things about funding in Europe, as you know, is that for the first time, we are able to include American researchers within our grants, at least in one of the main tracks, the health track, which is the main one. That's a novelty that has never been possible before, which opens up possibilities for consortia funded by the European Commission for the first time, including US and maybe even beyond the US researchers. So just a thought to keep in mind, maybe for our agenda for Edinburgh. Think about, because I think funding is something everyone, all of our members, will be interested in, and especially the younger ones, which might be more of a loss of how to get connected and how to get into consortia and things like that. So let's keep that topic in mind. I think it might be a good service for the future for our members.
Pedro, I think that's a great suggestion, and just reflecting on what Jennifer was saying, opportunities we've had in the past. So Australian government, our health medical research funding, they actually put forward money specifically to help us collaborate with EU funding. So if there is an EU project that goes forward, and I've been involved in one of these, we can actually leverage money from our Australian government to contribute to that European research. And I don't know how well known that is amongst European members of ISMPAR, and there's probably similar funding available for, I know there are some, there's an Endeavour scheme which supports funding between Australia and the US. So, I think that there's avenues and opportunities that we could talk about in a session. It's a great idea.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
Just on that as well. Sorry, just on that. When Pedro was talking, I was wondering whether, I mean, this is a bit bold, but whether, given that we have so much ongoing issues around getting sponsorship for at conferences and so on, I just wonder whether there's opportunities for us to look at core funding for the society, so that not a lot amount, but whether we have a group that focus specifically on this issue that may be part of the finance committee, who seek to get sponsorship or as Joe said, seek funding opportunities that could actually be considered to be core funding to support the society, so we're not so susceptible to variations in the profits that come out of the annual meetings. I just wonder whether we should be thinking down that, and whether there's opportunities within the financial committee to have a sort of a core group of people that focus on that issue specifically.
Well, we've talked about this before, and we've had a group, and for example, Stuart Biddle was part of it, and the idea was to really look into long-term sponsorship also for the society. But apparently has been very difficult, and we really haven't reached a lot yet. The idea was to also look with with Antonio for these possibilities, but this is really something we still need to take on, because so far not much has happened regarding this.
But I understand that, Grit, and I think maybe if we're talking about strategic planning, maybe that's something that we do need to revisit. And now that Antonio is sort of well established into the position, maybe there's opportunities for us to really focus on this area and put all our efforts into it, because I think with a concerted effort, we know it is very difficult. I mean, we all struggle with funding. I think that's just an ongoing issue. But it's just, I think where we are now, and with Antonio being very successful in that position, that we may have better opportunity. That was all.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is already related to the finances, but I just want to go one step back. We still one point regarding the role was on we've talked about this a little bit last time, but the reach of the nutrition researchers, and as far, from the reactions I got, it's not really perceived as a big problem. Also, Benedict talked about the abstract that came in. Diane told actually at the meeting, people working in nutrition really have the idea there's a lot of nutrition, and also the interaction with physical activity is really nice. However, I think we might have to do a little bit better job also in maybe when but I don't know how you think about this, when we elect people, should we have maybe also when we accept people for the committees or for another role, should we take this a little bit more into account? How do people feel about this?
Yeah, well, I would take that into account when there are more, when there are a lot of people who have a equal number of votes, when there is not a lot of difference in the number of votes they have. If I, for instance, have two people, one from physical activity, one from nutrition, I think I would prefer to have another member of nutrition in the EC, because at the moment we only have Nana and Diane, who are really into nutrition. So I think this is really something we have to work on.
Any other opinions or suggestions regarding better reaching nutrition researchers? We've already talked a little bit about the journal, and Diana explained a little bit about this. Any other suggestions on this?
I think when there was a call for new editors for the journal, there was a specific call for people with a nutritional background. I think we could probably also do that for when we call for new EC members, to say we're specifically looking for people with a nutritional background, if we think that balance is completely out of whack. Not to say that those people would actually respond, but we could try.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe Joe, how you think about this? Because you're leading the nominations committee, is this something we could do?
Hi, sorry, can you repeat that? Because I had to duck out the room to get my fan. I was getting hot. Can you repeat that, Great?
Yeah, we were talking about prioritizing people from nutrition expertise in certain roles. So we were talking maybe when the nominations. When we call for people in the nominations, if it would be an idea to specifically call for some people with expertise in nutrition. So that was suggested.
Well, it didn't seem from the nominations that we've received that it is an issue. There seems to be a good mix, pretty even mix of nutrition and physical activity. So I did ask this question in my email to the nominations committee, and in having a look, it was felt that Kylie Ball had a look, and she said, well, it seems that nutrition is very well represented. So it didn't seem to be a problem.
Okay. Then I suggest we move on to the finances, unless somebody did want to still react or has.
Well, I think that even though there is an equal number of people from nutrition and physical activity who are nominated, we might still prioritize people from nutrition in the elections, because it's not because there is an equal number nominated. We might prefer to include more people with an expertise in nutrition in the EC.
Yeah, it might also be that because physical activity is a bigger field, that the physical activity people always win the elections, kind of thing.
I wonder when we're having elections too, when we, put out the lists of here are the people you can vote for to the members, if we could have a bit of an outline of who's already on the executive committee, so that people can look and go, oh, well, there aren't many nutrition people. Maybe I should vote for a nutrition person this time. So they have that opportunity. And, I felt the same thing in the past from different countries. We don't have anybody from, I don't know, Australia sometime at some point. Let's vote for somebody from Australia, so that if we get that idea of who's already on the committee, then we can look to fill gaps that we might think are important when we're voting.
I'm not sure whether people will think in that way. I think as probably our society have more members in the physical activity field, they might vote rather for people they know. So I don't know if they will really look if there is an equal number of people in nutrition and physical activity, and if we don't tell anything about that, I don't know if people will choose or vote in that way.
Yeah, I agree with Benedict. I don't think people think that far about things.
Okay, but I suggest that we take that into account, and that Joe, when leading the nominations, that we look into this, and that Joe also takes this concern into account, although it doesn't seem to be too big of a concern of most people, but certainly for the EC and for some roles, we need to have sufficient people of nutrition. Okay, next point is the finances, and we already touched on it a little bit with the discussion we just had with Rolf, and Rolf already said that the some issues that are mentioned there, that indeed I think we need to look into more stable income from kind of sponsorship or some alternative funding. We've talked about donations, and there's a donation button on the website, but has it ever been used, Antonio? Do you know?
Not that I know of, but maybe. And Jennifer may know that.
No, I haven't seen anything come through that wasn't membership, as far as I can tell.
Okay, so I think indeed it's important that we more in a more proactive way look into this, and there may be some alternative funding possibilities like memory funds. There was also mention of WHO, but I'm not sure how easy it is, but it's true that we really rely on the meeting, and that actually more or less all the money goes into the journal. So it doesn't seem very sustainable that we have to work so hard and get so many people on the meetings just to pay the bills for the journal. So that, to me, it seems very, very awkward, and I don't think it's a sustainable business model. So I really think that in the future we need to look into this, and we can even argue if we need to continue to be under Biomed Central. But of course, at this point for us, it's quite difficult to negotiate with Biomed, and this will be something somewhat more long term. But I think we will need it to do this at some point, because it seems somewhat problematic to me. But I'm not sure if there's any opinions or suggestions regarding this financial situation.
Well, at the very least, concerning donations, I don't remember seeing any communication from us, from the EC, for the members, being very explicit about the fact that we encourage and we would welcome donations. I mean, the button is there, but we never really did it, that I can remember. Maybe I've forgotten. But so I wonder if you could just prepare before the meeting, maybe a month or two from now, as people are thinking about registering or have registered and are planning the meeting, they know that they will be there, and I'm perhaps thinking of the more senior of our members that run labs, that run bigger funds and things like that. Whether we could try just sending an email out to our members about this particular topic and specifically requesting donations, and see if something happens in that regard. I mean, I think it's something that, I mean, it's the minimum we can do. It's the least we can do to have a better assessment on whether this is even an option that we could think about in the future or rely upon in the future. And I don't remember if we've done that. Anyone remembers if we have sent out a specific, a very explicit email about requesting, and of course with a rationale why? I mean, if you go to the donations button, there's a text there that I think David Crawford drafted some time ago. It's a great explanation of why donations are important for the society. But perhaps 95% of our members have never read it.
But and also on that, Pedro, we could be more explicit with communications that we send out. So we have the newsletter that goes out. We could put something in that. We could. I mean, there are other mechanisms that we could promote, donations. So that is something that we could do via the communications committee.
Yeah, but maybe I would suggest not perhaps a unique email just on that topic, not
No.
as an issue.
I wasn't talking about.
I wasn't
talking about a unique email. I was talking about something that we could. We could do both unique, but we could also do something separate. And so I think we need to do more than one thing.
Okay, I would prefer actually a unique, just in case I wasn't clear. I would suggest a specific email, just one message about donations or about finances with an emphasis on donations, and not an item on the newsletter. That's just my view at this time.
Okay.
Although the newsletter item can probably be additional, but yes. I follow the idea of having an email.
But I agree with you, Greet. I don't think the model that we have is a good one. It's sustainable, and I think, we may have visited this in the past and we've been unsuccessful. That doesn't mean that we should stop revisiting and thinking about this different. And I think somebody mentioned before that there may be people in the membership that have better expertise at securing funding and have done very well, as you say, Pedro, with larger labs. And I do think that's something that we should revisit, because I think we do need a sort of a better business model than what we have at the moment. I don't think we should rely on conferences and as our only source of funding. So, I just if there's people in the in the executive committee that have interest in this, and I'd be happy to contribute. But I think we should revisit this and see what opportunities do exist, and make this a focus for 2015.
One thing I'd like to add I would say our second largest revenue stream is membership dues. And it has been 5 years since we've raised those. And I realize that is potentially sensitive because of student members and lower middle income country members. But I wonder if that's something we might want to put on the table.
Okay. I think we can follow, and this is very important input. So I would take it from there and see how we move on with that. That makes sense.
Can I just ask a question, because maybe we can go after this? Can we in some way include some ads on our website so that we can have a more regular sponsorship? For example, BMC asked that they might be willing to pay some money back to us if we have a banner of BMC in our website, but we don't have any. Our website is ad-free for now.
I think we've said before that this, if it's a sponsor which everybody agrees with, that this is something we could do, and that's a way of indeed possibilities to create a society versus the meeting. Okay, I suggest we move on. So we do have some really important and good input on the finances, and this is indeed a challenge we will really have to take on in the coming months and years. A few questions on the operational processes and The first point is that, of course, we will make the transition now to the 2-year term, with what was agreed upon is no past president commitment, but a president elect in a 2-year term of presidency. So the roles will have to be redefined. And the idea was that Joe was going to look into this. I'm not sure, Joe, if you want to go into this somewhat more detail now, or if you want some input from us now on this role redefinition.
Well, I suppose the main change is just in terms of the way we've operated before with the past president-elect, and then the current president. And one of the thoughts that I had, in terms of redefining the role was working more with the president-elect in the second year, or more closely with them, so that it is more of a, has more of a smoother transition. But that means that we would have the, president-elect being voted for after my first term, or after the president's first term. I don't know what people think about that. I mean, I don't know that otherwise, then we can, the other parts, the other aspects are the running of the conference, and the nominations committee. I mean, they're the main things that the various aspects of the presidencies in the past have done. But it could be that, in that second year of presidency, the president-elect works then with the president, and then, I don't know about then the following year, how we work that. So there does seem to be a 1-year gap. I have thought about it, but haven't come up with a huge solution yet.
Any thoughts on this or suggestions? Okay, then I suggest we take this on, and so the idea was to have to really outline the different roles, specifically also in this transition period, because we've tried a couple of times. I remember a while ago we did it, but it seemed quite complicated, specifically because we have this transition, and like you said, Joe, when is the new president elected? So this is something we really need to look into and have this on a scheme, so that it's very clear to everyone what the roles are.
Yeah, so I think after 1 year, Ian, it'll be good to have a president-elect then come in at least for that second year, and during this transition phase, to work with me.
Right. Okay. A second point was the improvement of the administrative support, and well, one of the possibilities we already talked about last telecom was more alignment between the two paid position. And I totally understand at this point that it's very difficult for Russ to see if this would be possible, because of course the new assistant is just starting and still has to learn everything. But I think in the future it might be valuable to see what's possible, and I think it's a win-win for both. I'm also not sure at this point the role of secretary. Ralph, you did write a report on this, and as you also pointed out, it's quite limited. So I'm not sure if it would be an idea to still be involved in certain specific tasks, or how do you see this role as secretary, because it now has kind of disappeared a little bit with the executive director on board?
I think, I mean, it is a bit difficult, because I mean, when I was writing the report, it sort of seems to me, I mean, a lot of the tasks or the role of the secretary have sort of been taken over, by Antonio's role, which is fine, and I completely understand that. So it does sort of seem a bit redundant to me in terms of its position, and so most of the work that I'm involved with is really around the communications committee, and less in terms of secretarial work. I mean, the secretarial work is really just the person that people contact, and then they come to me, and then I refer that on to whoever. So it does seem to be sort of at this point a bit redundant. So I'd welcome anyone else's thoughts around it. I mean, I would be happy to be involved in specific tasks that are warranted in that role as secretary. But the role itself at the moment is probably ill-defined.
Mm-hmm. And Antonio, what's your view on that?
My view is that, and I'm just thinking about this right now, maybe the secretary could have a more strategic role in the society. For example, this looking for funding, that will be something that I will see very easily within the role of a secretary, or looking for sponsorship in terms of longer term sponsorships, or some actions that should be taken not within the next month, but maybe within the next 3 months or 6 months, because that's something that I feel some difficulties in terms of my executive director role, because I have a plan, and we talked about that in Ghent in August, but that plan is not being very thought of because I'm dealing with day-to-day things. So if I have someone that can help on these paths that are going to be taken for in a 3 months or 2 months time frame, I think it will be great.
Okay, I suggest we look into this and maybe further discuss this.
Just give just one note is that our bylaws are very explicit about the secretary's role, and I've actually a few years ago, even last year, I had mentioned that I thought that needed to be changed at some point, because in my view, for many years now, the secretary has not been the role has not been taken according to the bylaws. So if we continue this path that we are doing now, I think we might have to revisit the bylaws, because it's one of our offices, and the functions or the duties are very well defined. But as far as I can remember, no one has really taken that to heart, and so it's been outdated for a while, really.
Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. Another point is the SIGs, and we've already had a report of the SIGs, and we discussed it a little bit. What we talked about was the number of SIGs, and as Cornel and Diana pointed out, they at this point feel that but correct me if I'm wrong, Cornel, so the idea would be to stick with the number that we have now, and then maybe look into when to allow for more SIGs. Diana was talking maybe by the Cape Town meeting to look in increasing the numbers. Does everybody agrees, or are there other suggestions about this? Does this reflect, Cornel, what you mean?
Yeah, I think I quite agree with that statement from Diane. She also said that at least not to actively recruit for new SIGs, but if someone would come up, is to consider it, but not go beyond the number of 10. And if we're not at 10 by Cape Town, then we might have another call for it. I think we should also keep in mind that I don't think SIGs are forever, so it might be that some SIGs are just not working out and the number goes down, and I think that's perfectly fine. But yeah.
Okay. And there was one point regarding the SIGs, which Antonio pointed out, is that they might want to have their own logos. I'm not sure if it was just a request from one SIG or more SIGs, or...
Well, it was something certainly my SIG has been thinking about, and we just, within our long little group, we had some questions like, is this allowed? Does it need to be approved? And then I took it to the SIG committee, and actually everybody's already responded to me, and my idea was for a consistent approach, and maybe also a service to the SIGs, is that we actually design a similar logo for all of them. So whether they choose to use this or not is up to them. But if they want to use a logo, then it will be something that's already kind of comes down from ISBNPA, and everybody on the committee seemed to agree with that. And my idea for that is to use the ISBNPA logo that has the byline, the behavior change signs, advancing behavior change signs byline, and replace that with the name of the SIG. Don't know what people think of that.
I like that idea.
Me too. I just think the main thing is that we have to be careful that we continue to have the link with the ISBNPA. So, but as long as it's there, then it sounds really good. So the idea of doing that way seems really good. But of course, it would be good to then just bring it to the EC so that we can take a look before moving on.
Yeah, sure. I personally think that we need to make sure we don't undermine the ISBNPA brand, and I think therefore a consistent approach, so that if SIGs separately come up, we want to have a logo. What do you think of this? And there's a bit of a wild grow of different ideas. Is that we kind of don't even open that door. So it's more top-down approach for a logo. In relation to that, some SIGs have very long names, which might be a bit hard for a logo, and they mainly repeat the words physical activity or sedentary behavior or nutrition, which is, we all know that's what ISBNPA does. So it seems to me a bit redundant to have that in the names of the SIGs. And so I asked the SIG committee what they thought of maybe also a bit more consistent approach for names. The views are kind of divided on that. I think some people said, no, these names have been approved, we should leave them alone, whereas others thought that's a good point and maybe there's a way to shorten names and not have that redundancy in there. Be interesting to hear what people think of that.
I suggest to just leave it up to the SIGs. I mean, to the committee, to you and Diane and the SIG committee to decide on this. I don't have strong opinions about this. Anybody else does? So Cornel, we suggest you just move on and come up with a suggestion if there is indeed a request for logo and new names.
Yep, that sounds good. Maybe the middle way is to suggest a short name to SIG chairs and then see whether they agree with that or not, and then whatever they choose is fine.
Okay, fine, thanks.
But maybe, Cornel, there might be, you say everything is about physical activity, sedentary behavior, but some SIGs might focus on physical activity while others rather on nutrition. Yeah. So that might be worth.
Yeah, that's a good
part of the name.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good point, Bennett. But so far, if you look at all the SIG names, when they do go into pointing out specific behaviors, they actually mention all the behaviors.
Okay.
There's not a single one that only focuses on physical activity or only focuses on diet. They kind of all do everything.
Okay, well, that's very good.
Okay, I suggest we move on to the last couple of questions for some more strategic planning. And a question was regarding the fellow program, if there's any suggestions, if we need to establish more regular contact and how we could do this. One thing, of course, is already that we will involve them in the mentoring program and ask if they would be willing to act as a mentor. I think at certain points, at least in preparation of the mid-year meeting and the meeting connected to the annual meeting, we need to contact them and check if they have suggestions like we did this time. Are there any other ideas to have them be more involved?
Maybe about this funding issue that we were talking about, and also in sort of ideas around sponsorship. I mean, maybe some of those sort of more tricky aspects, we might be able to see if we can engage the fellows more in those roles.
Okay. I think that's a really good suggestion because they might really know the best ways to do this. Anything else? Okay, regarding the committees and the subcommittees, we will still look at the terms of reference after this, but regarding are there any concerns regarding the committees? Do people feel we need other subcommittees? Is there anything we have to take into account for the coming months or years? No. Okay, then the next point is the size of our society, and this also links with the next point where there's some questions on the annual meeting, and of course, also the size is one of the points. And we've discussed this a couple of times also when in Pedro's discussion with Pedro that we try to find a balance even with the large meetings and the growing society to really have a lot of networking and stay vintage, as Pedro expressed. What about the membership? Is this a priority? Do we really have to aim for more members? How do people think about this?
I don't know if Trina has some thoughts around this. I mean, obviously, membership in perhaps the underrepresented countries is still an issue for us, and I think, you know, could be a target. But I've been giving the size of the society quite a bit of thought, and gee, I don't know. It's difficult to try and control it without coming across as very exclusive and non-inclusive. I mean, how do we stop the growth? Do we, you know, you put the membership fees up, then that disadvantages people that we want to come along. If you restrict membership to, you know, and if you've got a nomination, again, that becomes a bit exclusive. I mean, I just don't know how you manage it. And do we really want to turn away people who are actually interested in the area? Surely we're wanting to spread the word. So I'm not convinced that it's possible to actually limit it or restrict it. I've tried to think about it, but I can't think of how.
Well, and I think our member numbers, I think that's an interesting question because last year we had an unusual number of members register with the conference. And I wonder how much that reflects our true core membership or versus people who were taking advantage of the reduction in the fee because you're a member. And so it'll be interesting to see how many of those carry forward. That might give us a better sense of our true member count versus the ebb and flow of the size of the meetings. So they're related, but they're separate questions.
I think most is indeed, like you say, linked to the meeting. They remember that when they want to go to the meeting because they have the.
Yeah, for me, the question on size of the society is almost a question of the size of the conference, which I think is in its current format a bit bursting at the seams.
Well, even though that's so, and I agree that is the only sort of bottleneck of this problem, but even there, I would agree with Joe that it's also hard to stop. I mean, there's ways, of course, we can increase fees and things like that, but there's ways. I mean, it's sort of contradicting in terms that we would not take that we would attempt to have people not come to our meeting because the meetings are getting big. I mean, if it reflects the interest and you know, if it speaks well of our importance, and I don't see a sort of proactive way to stop that. However, I think there are natural ways in which that will happen. I guess the meeting in South Africa could be a natural way in which a meeting might be, again, smaller just by the fact that it is where it is. I mean, in Canada, we'll see how it goes. It may be that we don't get, you know, as many people as we normally get in Europe. And as long as we're prepared and we know in advance, sort of, we are somewhat prepared so that the conference is not a bad experience. I think it's hard and even though we have talked about keeping the family feel and the networking opportunities and all that, I think it's not something that we can very proactively control. So I've thought about it too for the last year, and I'm with Joe. It's something where we come up to sort of a dead end where we don't know exactly what to do.
I suggest we leave it for now, also for the sake of time. Maybe just one last question regarding this strategic planning is regarding prioritizing in the next couple of months. What do people feel we should really prioritize? I've heard a couple of important things, and one is the financial situation to become more stable and look into maybe other opportunities. And well, maybe the nutrition was some of the points, and then maybe the services of the members. What do people think? What should we prioritize? Are there other points, or do you agree that, because these came up out of the discussion, but are there other points you think we should prioritize?
I don't know. I think of financial viability. If we're not financial viable, then we don't exist, I suppose. So I think that would be very high importance.
I agree with those ones that you've identified, Greg.
Okay, well, thanks for this discussion, and of course, any ideas, suggestions, and if you still think of things or or you think of other priorities, or it's easier to reflect on Basecamp, just go ahead, and then we will look into this the coming weeks, and like Joe also pointed out, it's important then to see what we prioritize, who will take what on, and by when. So this is something Antonio and I and Joe will look into. So I suggest we go to the next agenda point. We still have a little bit over half an hour, and there's still some points I want to touch on. The first thing is we did get some really nice suggestions from the fellows. And you did get a document in which they were summarized. And of course, lots of the issues were already touched on. I might just quickly go over some main points that were mentioned by the fellows. One was to still improve our social media, but this is being covered, I've seen, in the communications report and in the plans of the communications committee. Well, the comment about too long reviews from the journal, we've discussed. Regarding the meetings, and this was also some of the points I still had on the discussion regarding the meetings, is maybe we need to look into more aligning with other meetings, and well, there was also talk about maybe joint meetings or switching organizations from year to year, which of course also has quite some consequences on the finances, since we still rely on the meetings. So this is maybe something we can take into account when we do not rely that much on the meetings. Also, well, advocacy was pointed out a couple of times as something challenging, but not our main task. Like Kylie said, and which was also reflected in the reactions I got today, is that we should really focus on our key outcomes, like the meetings, the journal, fostering the early career researchers, and so on. And advocacy is not a main task, not a core, but something that can be accomplished in certain tasks. Something which was also mentioned is to have more e-blasts on the meeting, but this was already communicated to Nanette, so hopefully they will take this into account. Ron also pointed out something regarding the articles in the newsletter, and it would be good, maybe Ralph, if you could look into this, or Antonio, because apparently there's some issue with the preliminary version versus the final version on the newsletter. So it would be good if this can be looked into. And yeah, there was also some reflection on attracting early career members, which is now taken care of, so that I think that's really good. And a comment from Ilse also was that apparently the reviewing of the symposia was not user-friendly. I think we're still not using a system for the symposia. I don't know, Pedro, if you do have any comments on this.
Yes, we are not using a system. I actually haven't heard of any problems or complaints. I mean, it's not the most streamlined system, but as I remember, it sort of worked for most people, and I didn't get any more feedback. So I mean, we can think of improving it for sure.
Of course, because with the increasing number, especially this year with all the symposia, it's maybe worth thinking of also having it in a more automated system. So these were some points of the fellows. I don't know if there's any other questions or remarks on this. Okay, then we move on to point number 6, the bylaws. So as has been pointed out, we will have some changes in the bylaws coming up, and those are mainly related to the definition of the student. Another thing we need to look into then, indeed, like Pedro pointed out, is maybe the role of the secretary, how we will move on with this. So I think Antonio and I will look into this if we need some changes or redefine the role. There was also a question if we do need to change the bylaws regarding the fact that we now include in the EC a student member and an early career member. Because it's not stated in the bylaws. However, when we do this, we are still in line with the bylaws because we comply with the number. Actually, my personal opinion would be not to change it at this point because we don't really know yet how it will work, and maybe in the future, or maybe student members it's not really working. So my suggestion would be not to change the bylaws at this point, but I don't know if there's any other ideas on this. If maybe some think we should already put it in there that we for sure always have an early career and a student member. No strong feelings about this? Okay. Then we do have some midterm reports. Maybe Joe, you want to start off with some report from the nominations?
Yes, hi. So we had a good number of nominations, very healthy actually, in terms of the 3 slots to be filled. So there were 6 student nominations from Australia, Portugal, the US, the UK and Ghent. There were 5 ECR nominations from Australia, Ghent, Canada, and 10 regular member nominations from Netherlands, US, South Africa, UK, Ghent, Australia and the US. So I had sent emails to the nominations committee. So a couple of questions I asked. Some had, like a single nomination, and some had, I think the record was from Ghent, 32. Good job, guys. And so, I raised a couple of questions with the nominations committee. One was, do we want to limit the number of individuals put forward from within institutions within an area? So, for example, if we have 2 or 3 from one institution within one of those categories, does that matter? Kylie's view on that was, she said if it's probably something too late to change now, because if people know up front, if an institution knew up front they should really only put forward one, then they might be more strategic, and that's a fair enough point. We didn't have such a restriction, so her view was that we can't do that now after the fact. And then the other question was, is there a limit on the number we put forward for voting, or do we accept everyone? I think there were a couple that were across categories, and I would suggest we put them into one of the categories. So I think Wendy was in 2, and I think we could pop her in 1, and also Jill Natchett was in 2, and we could just have her in one of them. But I don't know what the EC's view is on how many, but 6, 5 and 10, I guess it gives lots of, well, it would be actually less than that for some of those categories, but it would give people lots of choices in terms of voting. And as I said earlier, there's a good spread, a good mix of nutrition there, which is good. Any thoughts?
Joe, if I may, because this came up when I was looking at at the nominations, there were at least 2 people that nominated themselves. I don't know if this is possible or not.
Oh, okay.
In the bylaws, I look at the bylaws and there's nothing about this. But,
All right. Okay.
and there were solo nominations. So nobody else.
That's what I wasn't sure about the single. But then for the regular membership, there's a lot of single nominations. In fact, all but 2, I think, had single nominations. So that means that we'd only accept 2 if we have to have more than 1 nomination. Yeah, but I don't know about self-nomination, and that's not in the bylaws.
No, it's not. At least I didn't find out.
If it's not in there, I guess we can't do much about that.
At least they only nominate for 1 place, not for student, ECR, and regular. So.
Yeah.
And also, just to let you know, this is the nominations, so we still have to check if the nominees agree to be a part of the ballot. So this is the next step. So this number could be reduced because someone might not want to be present.
Yes. So, you know, we might end, yes, I think we might end up with less. But, you know, what is the EC's view on self-nomination? Do we think that it should be nominated by someone else?
I will go for that. I don't believe in self-nominations. I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I think they should be nominated by someone else. Yeah.
I agree. I think if they want to be nominated, they should ask somebody else to nominate them then, rather than nominating themselves. I think there's a better process to be nominated.
Okay, so maybe we should. I mean, this is the easy part because we don't have to accept everyone that's nominated at this stage, and if I make that recommendation to the nomination committee, then we just put forward the ones that weren't self-nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we invite the ones, that weren't self-nominated to put in. So Antonio, was that in the spreadsheet? It would have been, wouldn't it?
It is. It's not easy to find out, but I know it is. So I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so watch this space. That's all great.
Okay, thanks. Perfect. I think it's really good that we have such a high number of nominations. So that's really good. The communication committee, Ralph?
Yeah, I submitted a report. Things have been going very well with the communications committee. We have 3 new members in the subcommittee, Michael, Zen, Gao, and Dorothy. And they've been working very hard with Rick on the social media side and in the social media subcommittee. And we all met yesterday, and which was very useful, and have outlined a plan for 2015. And the focus really is on augmenting the social media side with more interactivity. We also talked about other options, which I think Antonio wants to talk a little bit more about as well, which is whether we should establish a LinkedIn or a ResearchGate element to our social media to make us a bit more connected. But we can talk about that in a minute. Facebook has been something that's been quite dormant, and we've had problems with Facebook because of 2 accounts, and we didn't know which one was which. But Dorothy has taken over Facebook, and that has actually shown a sort of a very positive increase in terms of likes and engagement with that. And we're hoping to sort of see that. We don't see that as a critical aspect of what we're doing, but we do see that as an important component. And we really want to maximize, the Facebook and the social media engagement, particularly around the conference time as well. And so we have a number of things in place for that. We talked about the keeping up the newsletter, which was important, but to try to shorten the length of it and to really have this sort of concept of having 2 to 3 sentences in the newsletter with a read more link URL link to the website to really engage people to the website, so that we're maximizing people's input into the website. Cornel, Antonio and I are going to do a review of the website and look at the analytics to look at usage, and also do a sort of stock take of where we're at, and then sort of from there decide where we want to go. We also talked about getting a call for a new communications committee member, because we're probably sort of at our around about 6 who are active in the communications committee. So we're going to put a call out, but also a call out for website subcommittee members to help Cornel, with that area. And there are 2 other areas that we really haven't driven that well. One is the Meet Your Neighbours, which is Debbie Thompson's responsibility, but she's highlighted a couple of technical issues around that. So Antonio and I are just going to meet afterwards just to try to resolve that, so we can promote that a bit heavily, a bit stronger maybe. And the hot topics area, that was something that Cleona ran, who was based here, but she's not a member and unlikely to, she might renew her membership as part of the Edinburgh meeting, but sort of has no plans at the moment. So that's why we feel that we need to sort of allocate that task to one of the committee members who is active. So maybe getting some new blood to drive that along. And that's sort of the main areas. But we do have we have sort of met to provide a vision for 2015 and 2016, and I think that's sort of where we're heading.
Perfect, thank you. Any comments or questions for Ralph?
It's not really a comment. I mean, I agree with everything Ralph said. I just wanted to say that Rick Prince, is extremely active on that committee and is doing a really wonderful job with the whole social media. He's also on the SIG committee, and I see he's also been, I don't know if it's self-nomination or not, but I think he's really high value, and I think, it's good for people to know that.
It's not a self-nomination, though.
I echo that as well. He's actually been, a very strong driver in terms of what his contribution has been in terms of the social media to the communications committee. So I echo those sentiments.
Cornel, because of course we can also still give advice for nominations. Would you suggest that we check ask him to be nominated too, or put him on the list too, because he doesn't have to be nominated.
But he is on the list.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Any other questions or remarks?
Just maybe this thing regarding ResearchGate and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I think it's more safe for us to be present. And for me also ResearchGate, because there's a lot of new people that are involved in research that are using ResearchGate as sort of as Facebook of research. And Rick has been asking for us to have a presence there, and also Cornel. But I can't tell them go ahead without the DEC approval. So do you have something against that?
I'm actually, I know we're part of that conversation, but I'm actually in support of it, and I think it is something that we should consider. And I think we should try to leverage it as much as possible in terms of social media. And I feel that that's an area that we should consider and give it approval. But I'm open to the other members' ideas.
Yeah, I like the idea of ResearchGate a lot, because it's a social network specifically set up for research, and people can share their papers there. So I think that this could bring all members closer together, or maybe easier to find out about their work. I think that would be good for society.
Well, personally, I'm not a fan of ResearchGate, because it just drives me crazy, and people are just all contacting you asking for papers which you can just find open access on the internet. But I mean, that's discussion, and if you all think it can be good for society and people want to be involved in it, that's fine for me.
Personally, I agree with you, Grit. I have mine going to the junk folder now.
You can adjust the settings on the emails that you get sent from them, because if you don't, you'll get heaps of them, but you can kind of completely shut that down if you like.
Okay, but it seems like nobody's against this, and it seems like this committee is doing great work, and then those are probably things to move on with. So good.
Thanks.
Next point is the scientific program committee. Pedro, did you want to report anything on this committee?
Well, not anything beyond what you followed during the course of the year. So the main activities we did were keynote assignments, was workshop reviews and selection, symposia review and selection, and then next week we will meet for the actual building of the program. But all of this stuff happened sort of live on Basecamp, so you were able to follow it. So I didn't think I needed to write a written report about it. But if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you have in mind, just let me know and I'll try to clarify.
Are there any questions for Pedro? Okay, no.
I should say that the scientific committee has been very helpful and responsive. We have a great group of people, if you remember who they are, but you can watch them online. You can see who they are on Basecamp. But it's been working great. They've been great, and no problems there. And I think they're engaged, as you know. Kathy from South Africa and Ryan from Canada are in the scientific committee, so that's good for the upcoming meetings.
Yeah, I think that's something we have to try to accomplish in the future, because I think it's very valuable for the future meetings. So that's really good. Yeah. Okay, the next point was the policy and partnership documents. But as I already told you, Nana told us that she has not been able to work on it lately, but she's really planning to finalize it in the coming weeks and months. So we will definitely have it ready pretty soon. But at this point, there's no progress. Then we have a small point on the preparation of the call for the annual meeting bits. Joe, did you want to comment on this?
No, I haven't progressed that as yet over Christmas break, because obviously not really having been around, having a long summer break. But it will be something that I start to ramp up now in the first half of this year. So no, nothing to report on that.
Okay, perfect. And then the last point is the point we were not able to cover the meeting on Tuesday, is the revision of the terms of reference. And there was Rolf did prepare the terms of reference, and I kind of made a summary of the key issues which I posted on Basecamp. I'm not sure if everybody was able to look into this. And I'm not sure, Antonio, if you can maybe just put it on your screen.
I think it is.
Okay. It's not on mine, but however. So it does, Rolf pointed out some practices like the inclusion of at least 2 members of the executive committee, to have, it's showing now. Thanks, Antonio. To have a member of the EC act as the chair, to have a maximum of 6 to 10 members, with additional members recruited from the membership of the society as needed, each member having an active role and contributing. If members are unable, then they're asked to resign. And then some points on the calling for new members. Maybe one point I wanted to add is if it would be an idea to also put in the terms of reference that the committee includes at least 1 student or early career member. But I'm not sure how people feel about this. If it's feasible, if it's something we should try to accomplish, or maybe it's already the case.
I think that's good to put in, Greek, and perhaps you could put or 1 student or member.
I agree. I think it's something to pursue, and it will contribute to us having a better pool, a larger pool of people for the future, for the leadership positions.
Okay, so it would be good if for the different committees, the chairs can look into this and see if they can accomplish this in the coming months. And maybe some of the committees already have them in their committee. And Rolf also pointed out some mode of operation guidelines, some things about communications, the subcommittees involved, and the secretariat support. So are there any questions or remarks regarding the terms of reference as lined out here? Okay, then we will move on with this. I think the most important thing to discuss was in this student or early career member, but the rest was already pointed out and written down by Ralph, so seems to work fine. Okay, we made it in time, even a little bit earlier. Some other points to discuss? Are there any questions or remarks or other business point people think of?
Can I get one point of clarification? Are we looking at soliciting bids for 2018 in time to discuss at Edinburgh?
That was what I was thinking. But yeah, so that would be something that I would be hoping to have so that we can have it in front of us for Edinburgh.
Okay, given that we're already 2 meetings past that in terms of planning, and we're getting a little overextended with all the contract review and the advance payments, I'd be a little concerned that if we solicit bids this spring and get the 2018 meeting on the schedule, that's not going to help that situation. And I might be in favor of postponing it.
That's a good point, and we are finding now, Greg, that we're already being asked for deposits for Victoria, Canada, and it will just stretch the society a bit.
Okay, well, I think there's for sure possibility to maybe start opening the selection maybe around Edinburgh, and then maybe look into this after the summer. But the idea was to plan really well ahead and well in advance, because that seems very helpful to get things done and to really work well ahead, and also look for alignment with other meetings. But I think it's not a problem to just postpone it, for example, by half a year, because we're still, of course, very well in advance.
We could also be explicit in our expression of interest call that the time where we would be interested in making any formal commitments, but if it's an early expression of interest or a preliminary expression of interest, that might be useful for us to start thinking about 2018. I understand Jennifer's point, but I also like the fact that we are now sort of 3 meetings ahead, and if we can continue that path, not let that go too far, I think that would be good for the society. So as we finish this meeting, we will have 2 meetings scheduled, and I think we'd be well served to have a third one, so for 2018 scheduled, not too far. But we can be explicit in our expression of interest, saying the time where we would be ready to make any formal commitments and any advance payments or things like that.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I know we got some pressure from Victoria to send down payments to secure the site. They came to us and said, another group is interested in booking. You absolutely have to sign contracts now and start sending us money. I would hate for us to continue to get into that situation year after year, because 2.5 years ahead, I absolutely like that from a planning perspective, but unfortunately that comes with the financial piece as well. And so we're going to need to be really cautious with this.
I can just add some idea here also. The thing that we were able to have much better prices on the venues, because we are planning such time ahead, because we were able to decrease by almost 50% the regular price. So it's again a fine line. If we can support for this, it will be beneficial in terms of costs at the long term, but this next few years could be rough.
It's also the case that with the increasing numbers for the meetings, that the number of venues is of course smaller. And apparently in quite some cities, the venues are really booked years in advance. So that's, sometimes quite difficult. But I do understand, Jennifer, what you mean.
Yeah, well, I'm also in favor of starting to put out a call very soon, or as soon as, well, in the coming months before Edinburgh, from a planning perspective. And also we have to take into account that in the past, it was not always easy to find people interested to organize a conference. So if we just ask for an early expression of interest, then at least we know whether there is any interest. And if not, we have the time to proactively search for interested people.
Yeah, in that regard, that was also one of discussion points, but we didn't get to it. Is that this linkage from the local organizing committee with the society is so important. And for example, this year we're running into some problems and difficulties, although, for example, Nanette and Annie, they know the society, but still it's very different than having somebody involved who's much closer to the society and has an active role. And that's maybe also something we can take into account when looking for possibilities for future meetings. Okay, but I will. So these points are very valuable, and maybe Joe, you can think further if it's indeed an option to at least have some look for some expression of interest without really assignments and contract signing and so on very shortly, but at least that we have expression of interest from several groups to make sure that we can get the best candidates.
Yeah, sounds good.
Another small point is regarding the sponsorship of Slimming World. It's on Basecamp, so because there were some pros and cons, so it would be good if you could just express your opinion on Basecamp, and based on that we can then have a decision and communicate it to the Edinburgh group. I already had we had some reactions already. Any other things? No? Okay, well, thank you so much again to being on this teleconference for 90 minutes. I'm really happy it worked out, and apparently Fuse was not too bad tonight, so that's really good. And we'll talk again. Antonio, do you know the date of the next meeting? I don't know.
26th of February.
Okay, so we'll all talk 26th of February. Thank you.
Well done, great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Antonio, you staying on?
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, I'm staying on.
Okay.
Antonio, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, Pedro, can do we have a time frame? Yes, I have a meeting from 10 to 11. I can't because I'm having a meeting with Fiona and Craig from Meeting Makers.
You want to call me at 11?
Just after that, okay. At 11.
11 or 11:15, something like that.
Okay.
I'll be available. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, Ralph. But
Cheers,
Ralph,
mate.
you still there? I was
Yeah,
almost making a comment before just now about Auckland and how good of a proposal we had from someone within the committee, but then I thought I would just keep quiet. But anyway, we would like
to do it. We put a proposal in last time, as you know, so we'd love to do it again. Put another proposal in. So when that bid comes up, we'll put our hat in the ring again.
Super. I'd love to come to Auckland, actually.
Yeah, you can come anytime, Matt. You're welcome anytime. You know that.
I know. Okay, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Antonio.
Okay. Yeah.
So just a couple of things that we need to talk about.
It's the thing that Debbie Thompson referred is did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did I forward you her email?
Yes, you did. So, and I
Okay,
was
let me just pull. Let me just sorry. Let me just pull it up because I'm not quite sure if I. Sorry, I'm just trying to do.
I think are you on, can you see my screen? I can include that information here.
No, I can't see it. But I'm on my mobile phone because I'm not on my.
So I
I've
won't
been
be able
having.
to see.
I'm still having. They haven't updated my
browser and all that.
You know, my browser, which is still a pain. Hang on, Deborah.
But she states what she's asking is that she told that we were working out some guidelines for the videos, and
yes.
I truly don't recall to tell something that specific that we were thinking about some guidelines for the videos, but maybe that's what she caught, as she understands. So my fault for not following.
I find her a bit random at times. Sorry, Antonio. I find her to be a bit random. I don't always understand. But she said we discussed converting Meet Your Neighbor from a text to a video format. I thought that was I don't actually remember that in very detail. She did. I know she did talk about it. Yeah. And she said that we were working out the guidelines for the videos. I don't remember that. Do you remember that?
That part I don't remember. I remember that she told that.
No.
And I remember that I told her that we were doing some videos about the articles or the papers from the journal, and that they should take around 3 to 5 minutes, and they should be posted on YouTube. That's the guidelines. Those are the guidelines. So we don't expect like a 30 minutes video, but it should be on YouTube, 3 to 5 minutes, and that's it.
And I think it should just be a brief vignette. And can we link that YouTube to our site? We can, presumably.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll just email her back and say that we don't quite remember all the details, but what we suggest is no longer than 2 to 3 minutes maximum. Post it on YouTube, and we'll provide the link from the Meet Your Neighbors link on their website.
That's it.
Which is fine. She said in the past we sent MYN invited a list of standard questions to address. Once I received the guidelines, okay, so that's fine. I'll come back to her then and just say this is what we're aiming to do. And she probably needs to have maybe 3 Meet Your Neighbors a year, something along those lines, so that we give her some guidance in terms of what we want her to do.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, I just don't know if 3 minutes is enough for the questions that were asked before for Meet Your Neighbors.
But I think what she can do is she can if we say to her if we're going to go to video, then she have to revise the questions and maybe put those past the communications committee before doing the first one. So she might need to draft revise the questions so that and it just Meet Your Neighbors should be who you are, what is your research interest, and and it's just a couple of minutes on that should be sufficient.
Yeah, maybe there's some text that can be also close to the video. For example, who you are. It's difficult to, I don't know, if there is a team of 10 people, it will be difficult to tell everything. So maybe she can think about something that's on video and some extra information or some more detailed information on text.
But what I meant, sorry, by who you are was not sort of maybe that's lost in translation. But what I meant by that was sort of hi, we're the physical activity team at the National Institute for Health Innovation. Our research focuses on major risks to health. I think and just something that's the sort of blurb I was hoping that they could put together.
Okay. Because I saw the other Meet Your Neighbors. Then they have a detailed list of every people that was.
But I just think that's too much.
If you have a link to the website or something like that.
Absolutely.
They can find out.
So I might call Debbie because sometimes I find it easier than So Debbie, meet neighbours. So we want 2 to 3 minutes max. Just a sort of an intro, outline of research interests, and link to website. That's enough. Now, just on the couple of other things that I wanted to touch base with you. So somewhere, I know that there's probably a person in the communications committee that I've never contacted, but I have, but I've never heard from them. And I think there was someone from Asia, because at the moment Kim Gans has basically said she didn't want to do the Facebook thing because she was overcommitted. So I haven't actually said to her officially, "Are you leaving the communications committee?" But I didn't email her on this round because I felt that if she's pulling out of the Facebook, she probably hasn't. I mean, she doesn't really contribute much to the communications committee. Alexandra Evans is another one. I emailed her and asked her to join our meeting, but she never even contacted me back. She was supposed to do a sort of a participant survey at the Ghent conference, which never took off. So again, I don't know whether maybe I should email her and just say, look, Alexandra, are you still interested in being part of the communications committee? Haven't heard back from you recently.
Yes, but Kim Gans is, at least I don't have her already on the list of the communications committee.
But she was on it for some reason because she was doing Facebook.
I recall that she was, but maybe 2 years ago. I don't know.
Okay. So do I just email her or do we just leave it?
I think we leave it. If she comes back, that's because she's interested. I don't know. Okay,
so Alexandra Evans, I will email. Is there any other people that we've got that I haven't contacted?
I know, but this is something old. Diana Oshler, I think he was also on the communications committee because of the newsletter, but my guess is that she will.
So she was officially on it, but because she was also the president, and then sort of her presidency ended, and then she was past president. I sort of felt that sort of she, I didn't know whether to keep her involved in the communications committee or not. So I could email her and just ask her.
Yes, but my guess is that she's sort of letting go of the society. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's fine. So I will leave her off then as well. Anybody else?
No, I just don't recall anybody from Asia.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't want to be rude and think that I'm being exclusive. I'm trying to be inclusive.
No, this is the biggest committee that we have.
Yeah. Okay. So ideally, what I would like though is just to maybe have one more communications committee member that could maybe come on board, and that maybe from a sort of a it'd be good if we can get somebody from Asia or Africa or somewhere different that we don't already have to represent another continent. I don't want anybody from New Zealand, ideally, because we've got Wilma is on the subcommittee as well. But as I said, ideally, we want a couple of people to help with the website subcommittee, because I think we just need a couple of people that we can direct, with a bit of new blood that have got some enthusiasm that could also help. And I know Cornel's very busy because he's got the SIGs plus the website subcommittee as well.
Well, I'm trying to figure out who do we have on. I think we have someone from Hong Kong. He was also on that pre-conference satellite last year.
Yep.
With the active video game, because I don't know if he's.
Patrick. You mean Patrick or?
No, I think he has an Asian name.
Patrick Lau, or his name. There is a guy. Is Wing Chung Lau.
Maybe that's it. I think I'll manage.
But I know him quite well. He's a professor at Hong Kong BU. I don't think he has any website experience, and I'm not sure if he's a doer. I think he's quite a networker, but not necessarily a doer.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's maybe the only person that I recall from our society.
Yeah. But we could put it out saying that we're looking for interest for people who have, experience or expertise in website development, websites, or, that would want to participate and just, make it sort of a call around that.
Yeah. So we should make a call instead of tap on the back. Isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because I just think we've got to be open. But when we do the call, if we can get somebody from areas that we think are important, would be good.
Okay. I
There
think
was a
that maybe
Chinese. There was a Chinese girl who went to the. I can't remember her name. There was a Chinese girl who's in the States, who was very much into her video games, also very technologically savvy. We went to dinner with her one night, but I can't remember her
I
name.
know. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she was very good.
If she is on the membership, so and I
Yeah.
think she was.
She
working,
was.
We call the university.
Don't. But if we go back and look at the people that attended, I can remember. I know someone who knows her, so I could always ask them what her name was, and we could just maybe encourage, because we can encourage people to apply, even if there's a call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can shoulder tap them, but they still have to apply. Go through the application process.
I think I was just trying to see from China if we have someone. But I don't think she was from China, was she?
No, she was from Minnesota or Midwest somewhere. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's difficult. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people from China.
Okay.
One is from the Hong Kong Baptist University. The other one's from States.
Yeah. Okay. So, are you happy to put out a call for one communications committee member? And
I think I am. I think that maybe we can also have someone else from the EC helping, because with this new blood that is coming in from ECR and student members, they should be more savvy in terms of websites and social media.
Okay, well, that would be good. I mean, we can look at the current call, and if people are going to be joining the EC, we might be able to sort of direct them to the communications committee, because when you first join, people don't know what to do, but we could wait until the meeting and say we want somebody from the EC to join the communications committee, but we could put out a call for subcommittee members, which would be quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just also one other thing, just while I remember, when you and Greet talk about the secretary duties and the bylaws and thing, can I be involved? Because as secretary, I think it's probably useful for me to be involved in that conversation, because I think
we haven't spoken until now. So
no, I know you haven't. But when Greet mentioned it, she said, "Oh, well, you and she said, "Oh, you and I will talk about it, you and Greet." But I just thought it'd probably be useful to have the secretary there as well. So
for sure.
Yeah. So if you could just maybe mention that when you talk to her. I mean, I'm happy. I can do early mornings, like 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. It doesn't bother me to make it easy for you guys.
Yeah. No, for us, it's this time. For you, it's about around 10, isn't it? So
11:30. But I'm an early riser, so I get up really early in the morning.
Okay, so it could be just in our late afternoons. Okay.
Yeah, so if it's 6 o'clock, in the evening there, I can do 6 a.m. or something. It doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know it's not a Portuguese thing to get up super early.
No, it depends. For example, for me, it is to start working early, but not at that 6 a.m. Not 6 a.m. or 7:30 something. Yeah. I'll start on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, but when I said yesterday what I said about you and your role, I find it much better than when we had the other lady, but Pam. I just find that I feel the level of communication is lifted up a level that we didn't have before, and I find it just so much easier. I think we're progressing things much better than we did before. So I think it's great. I'm really pleased that we have that role with you in it.
And I think that the thing that I said regarding maybe the role of the secretary to look more for this a little bit further than I do, more at 2 months or 3 months direction, I think it will be great, because what I'm sometimes feel is that I'm at a loss in terms of what should I do, not for tomorrow, but for a month. On. And grid sometimes helps, but she's.
And maybe that's where we probably do need. I mean, maybe with your role, my role, maybe we do need. I know you meet Greek more regularly, but maybe we need to have sort of a tripartite meeting, maybe once every 3 months, not monthly like you guys do, or more regularly, but maybe once every 3 months we have a president, the secretary and the secretary talking just about sort of what things that we can do that are consistent with that role of the secretary. And I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, one of the roles of the,
one a month.
Yeah. Well, one a month, I don't mind doing.
For starters,
I'm happy.
For starters.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, because I think, I do have, sometimes I feel a bit, that role is, what's the word? I don't feel I'm fulfilling the role to its best potential, and I don't like that. I like to do things well.
Yeah.
So maybe when you talk to Greek, maybe suggest that, and we could have a meeting together. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've been contacting Grid mostly because not that I want to show that I'm working, but because I want to do what the president wants and not what I think it's good, because I could run things by myself, but that's not what I think the executive director should be.
And exactly, and I think as a secretary, I mean, that some of those secretariat roles have disappeared, or maybe not so important, but I should also be supporting the president to drive some of these initiatives along, and I don't mind doing it, but sometimes you need a little bit of direction in terms of what she wants you to do, and if that's, as you say, a little bit more strategic in terms of long-term planning, I'm happy to do that, and maybe that we should resolve that in conversation.
I think you should be more of a Secretary of State from the United States. No, that's mostly not the secretary in terms of doing the minutes and contacting the members and all that, because I don't think it will be strange to have someone that is being paid, thinking ahead, and having some member from the EC doing the little stuff. So.
Yeah, and I think we can probably communicate better than we've done. We're trying to make, and so monthly meetings would certainly allow that.
I think
I'm probably going to be in Europe April, May, June this year, so I'll be on the same time zone. So that's also useful for us as well.
It is. Yes, and I will suggest that it will be so if we have the next meeting on the 22nd of February, that we should meet maybe 1 week before that executive committee meeting, so that we can align our thoughts, and then
and then we can present that to the EC once we've done that and said, look, we've met, we've discussed, these are the plans, and it doesn't have to be 1 week before. It can be any time between now and then. I'm free.
Okay. I'll schedule some or doodle some dates around that. Okay.
All right. I'm just emailing Debbie now, so I'll sort that out, and then I'll let the other guys know. I'll let Rick know that we've talked about ResearchGate and LinkedIn, and just that there's no objections from the EC
for ResearchGate also.
Yeah. Okay. I'll sort that out. All right, mate. Take care, eh?
Bye.
Cheers.